Galaxy Fighter. This lesson is called Scrolling Background. The green area here represents the iPhone screen. Let's suppose that we have a sprite that we want to scroll along the iPhone screen. Something like this. But what if we want to scroll continuously? We can't move the sprite more because a visible gap would appear. We could have a gigantic sprite, but due to limited memory of the iPhone, that is not practical. So here is a bright idea. We can add a swap sprite. That is, an identical sprite, only positioned so that it begins where the original sprite ends. We must of course make sure that the image of the sprite blends seamlessly. Here we have two concatenated sprites. We scroll until the first sprite leaves the screen. When that happens, we change the position of the sprite so it begins where the other sprite ends. Here is the needed code. Gx represents the number of points we move for each tick. W is the width of the sprite, and H is the height of the sprite. The first two lines of code move the sprites. The last two lines of code check if a sprite has left the screen, and if so, reposition the sprite. Let's now go to Xcode and see how we can explore this idea. We are inside Xcode. Our task is to make a scrolling background with twinkling stars and play some background music. Both the background and the music are to be constructed in a loop, so they give the impression that both space and sound are of infinite length. Our plan is to use two sprites that we swap with each other. Let's examine our starting point. We have a sound called space.mp3. It is 24 seconds long. Let's listen to it. This sound is made for a loop. That is, the end blends with the beginning in a seamless transition. We have an image called space.jpg for our background. The image is 1024 by 320. We have also the corresponding image blink.png with the same dimension. Observe that this image is transparent, a part of the white dots where the stars are. The idea is to randomly change the opacity of the blink image to get the stars to twinkle. We have also double-size images for retina display. We have two classes, GameLayer, which is our main class, and the common class, where we collect things that are commonly used by all classes. We are building a whole game, and we must take care to simplify as much as possible. Otherwise, the things will soon get out of the hand. We do not want the code for handling the background to be inside the GameLayer class, because game layers tend to become huge soon enough anyhow. Instead, we will make a class whose sole purpose is to handle the background. We will call this class a background manager. So let's create it. Right-click, choose New File, choose Cocos CCNode class, and we will call it Background Manager. Save, and there is our class. Let's go to GameLayer and make an instance variable that will point to our class. paste some code. We introduce the class Background Manager so that the game layer knows about it. Paste some code. Here is a pointer to a background manager called Bagman. Go to Implementation, paste some code. Here we are importing the background manager.h. Go to init method, paste some code. The first thing we do is to play our background music in a loop. SAE is a macro defined in our common class, as you can see here. Observe also that common.h imports simpleaudioengine.h, which means that we can play sound from all classes that import common.h. Let's go back. Here we create Bagman, our background manager. Observe that we are passing the pointer to the game layer, and that is because the background manager will add some sprites to the game layer. And here we call schedule update. Let's now add the update method. Paste some code. The schedule update will cause the system to call this method 60 times per second. And for each tick, we want to send an update background message to the background manager. And what the background manager will do is essentially move the background image a little to the left and twinkle the stars a little, and keep on doing it for every update message. Let's now go to backgroundmanager.h and write some code. First select everything and delete. Paste some code. The first thing we do is import GameLayer.h because we will have a pointer to the game layer. Then we will have 4 sprites, 2 for the background and 2 for the blinking stars. We will initialize with this method and update with this method. Go to Implementation. Let's delete that also. Paste some code. Let's get an overview of this code. First, we have some constants specified by define directive. We have the width and the height of our 4 images. We have the horizontal change for each tick. That determines the velocity by which our background will move. Then we have some opacity values and a blink frequency. Here we have the initializer. We take the given layer and put it in our layer variable, and then we call setUpBackground. And in the setUpBackground we begin by creating our first background sprite, which we are calling BG. And here we are adding it to the layer. We then add the corresponding blink image to the BG sprite. We do the same thing for our swap sprite, called swapBG. The only difference is that we shift the position so the swapBG begins where the BG ends. Let's now look at the update background method. We receive a call to this method 60 times per second. Each time we change the position a little, 0.3 pixels, which means 20 pixels change per second. We then check if BG sprite has moved outside the screen. If so, we change its position so that it begins where swapBG ends. And similarly for swapBG sprite. We then take a random number between 0 and 1 and check if it is less than blink frequency, which you can see here is 0.2. And if it is, then we change the opacity to a random number between mean opacity and max opacity. Let's check if this works. Pay special attention to the twinkling of the stars. And as you can see, it works. Thank you for watching.